Welcome to another Kundalini conversation. I'm your host, Brent Spirit, here today with my guest, Kathrin Largo. Kathrin, welcome. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Yes, thank you very much for having me,
It's,
and let's see where it goes.
yeah, it's my pleasure. So, Kathrin hosts a YouTube channel called Awakening Stories. The tagline there I noticed that you have on your YouTube channel is to tell your truth even if your voice shakes. So just prior to beginning our formal interview here, we were talking about how this will be the first time you've shared about your Kundalini awakening journey in full publicly and how that's a little daunting. And of course, understandably so, right? This is an intense topic. It's very personal. We've got to be vulnerable. But as you know, hosting other people telling their stories on your YouTube channel, it's so valuable that we tell our stories, that we give clues and hints for other people out there that are going through this, that are looking for language, models, maps, other people that are going through this as well. It's so valuable. So thank you so much for being here and for the work you're doing.
Yeah, thank you.
So Kathrin runs a website called KundaliniMovement.net as well, where she offers support, some insights about the Kundalini process. Kathrin here, of course, we were having an interview in English, but she's based in Switzerland, speaks German as well. So people that are out there in Europe looking for some resources, some community, some connection, Kathrin's available to get connected with. Kathrin also works as a yoga therapist. You can find her work at sanasattva.com. The links to all of Kathrin's work, including her YouTube channel, will be in the description, so you can check all that out later. But for now, let's dive into Kathrin's journey here. So, Kathrin, tell us a little bit about your Kundalini awakening, your spiritual awakening journey. You can take us back as early as you like. We'll
Hmm.
enjoy your story. We'll find out about some of the challenges you faced, the solutions you found, and then we'll unpack some themes as we go. Where would you like to begin?
Well, actually, I normally begin in 2012 because that was the time I lived in Costa Rica with my ex-husband, my then still husband, and we had two little boys, and but then we separated and I went back to Switzerland. And actually, there the whole journey started when I was like alone with these two boys and I had to settle into a new life. And I was quite strained from a long time of a lot of stress, emotional stress. So that's where I start. And I always have to separate two lines. It's like I had a spiritual awakening and then the Kundalini awakening, which are two different things for me. And spiritual awakening actually started when I was back in Switzerland. I had to find a new way to stable myself, fulfill myself. So I started yoga. And then also I started an education in script writing for movies. And that's actually was the point where I had to think about a topic to write a script. And I wanted to do something about a person who has multiple personality disorder. And with that topic, I went down a rabbit hole. So I was just researching all that stuff, and then you quite fast you come into topics like ritual abuse and occult themes, and I was hooked. I was like, felt like there's a truth underneath all of that I felt it, and but I was too much involved in this topic, so I really I lost a bit my ground. But the moment where I researched all these horrible, quite dark themes, I suddenly understood when there's so much darkness, there has to be the same amount of light. And then I changed and was researching all the ancient texts and hermetics, alchemy, everything. I didn't do anything else in my free time. So, and I think that was the moment where I asked for what was coming. So I was just sitting there and I was actually, by doing what I was doing, I was praying for, I want to know the truth, nothing but the truth, even if it's absolutely horrible. I just want to know the truth. And I want to know what is love, unconditional love. What is it really? So these two things I was asking, and then it came. But it started with a phase where I was emotionally very unstable because of all these topics and the confusion. And that was also the point where a lot of people would say that it looks like a psychosis, but it's not. It was really a spiritual awakening. But my mind was just because of the fear that suddenly went, um, my mind was open to, I don't have a clue how the world works. So I was open suddenly. So I started to see a lot of things other people don't see. And that kind of scared me. But that was a good sign. So I wasn't in psychosis. It was just that I started to open up
Mm.
to other experiences. And then I started to do a yoga teacher training. And in this phase, I started to feel like a vibration in my lower spine. It was like a motor. It was like, and then it stopped and it came again. And it was an eerie feeling, but I was never scared. I just knew that's something good. But I didn't give it a lot of attention because that's also very interesting for me. Even though I was researching so much stuff also about ancient texts, I never came across Kundalini. That's crazy because that's the number one topic now that I know. But I think when you know too much about the topic, it shuts you from the experience. So I didn't know what was happening. And then in the middle of a class, uh, we were sitting there at the beginning of the yoga class, and the teacher was reading a Buddhist text. And I suddenly felt very, very tired and sleepy. So I was like, okay, I just close my eyes and just listen to the text. And then it was a feeling like a layer of my an inner layer of my body suddenly moved very quickly, like a fish in a in a tank, and then this energy just went up and out of my body, and it took me with it. So I was sitting there and I had no clue what was happening. I got scared. So I was like embarrassed. I was like, oh my God, if I fall unconscious and I'm like twitching, and what will the people think? So I just opened my eyes and really had to pull back that energy back into my body. And then I was just sitting there like, what the fuck? I was just looking around and I thought, nobody knows what was just happening. Even I don't know. And fascinated and scared at the same time. And then right after that, the we chanted an Om together. And I was sitting there singing that Om, and that Om went through my whole body. It was like every cell was moving. I was the, oh, it was crazy. It was just, and again, I was just sitting there laughing inwardly and thinking, what the hell is going on? And yeah, so afterwards, I was just very excited, and I thought about just going to the toilet and let the process fulfill itself. But then I thought, ah no, come on, it's so high that energy. I just go home. I have to sit down, and because it's so high that energy, it will just. But of course, I mean, it was not like that because as soon as I was at home and I was sitting down, nothing happened. But the energy was high, very, very high for 2 weeks.
Wow.
So I don't know. It for me, it was a feeling as if I was floating. Like my hair was also, it was like floating. And I mean, these are the kind of embarrassing things, but I had to put weight on my feet because it was a feeling of I'm losing the ground. And I had just 2 weeks. I think other people would name it a bliss, but I'm just a kind of very fearful person when it comes to losing control. So I was, even though it was beautiful, because I was walking through the streets and I was like, oh my God, you just have to look at that picture and you wake up. Or you just have to listen to this song and you wake up. So everything is here to wake us up. That's the whole purpose, even of a tree over there. It is there to wake us up. And I understood that in normal life, we all have these glimpses of this moment where you would wake up, but we hold back. For me, it's like when I go to a wonderful, like Cirque du Soleil, I don't know. It's an experience for me. You are there and they really want to take you into another world. But as soon as you feel this incredible, overwhelming feeling of, I want to cry because it's so beautiful, we stop. And that's the feeling I was over that step. I couldn't hold back anymore. I was in that feeling of it took me to that place where you are there. And it was beautiful and scary at the same time. And a lot of stuff happened that, of course, also like I was feeling this energy and I had the feeling of I cannot control it. I was scared that the moment somebody tells me something very beautiful, a beautiful story, this energy will burst out with love and the other person will just fly. Just a feeling of I cannot control it. It was scary for me. And also it really happened that I like electricity when I sudden stuff was reacting to the energy in my body. And when I was laying in bed, every night my body, the feet were pulled towards the window. So it was scary.
Wow.
But I didn't tell anybody because I felt ashamed. I was like, they will tell me you're crazy or so it took me a lot of courage to go to my yoga teacher and tell him, listen, that happened, but I had to because I didn't know how to get grounded again. I didn't know that I have to ground. He was just telling me afterwards. So I told him, and I was very lucky because his reaction was very good. I know you had other experiences. I heard about that, so I'm really sorry because that's a crucial moment, and you need somebody who takes you seriously. But he did. He just gave me a hug and he told me, wow, that's something beautiful, but we have to act pronto right now that this energy is grounded again. And then he sat with me and showed me some mantras, mudras, and told me I have to eat like pizza and just heavy stuff and go out in the woods and hug trees. That was the moment where I was like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But I took these advices and it helped. But I think that the most help was that it took me seriously. That was
Mhm.
the moment where I could um yeah, give over a lot of that fear of not being taken serious or that I'm crazy. And yeah, so that was 8 years ago when that happened. And since then, the energy is just working in my body, and I have these ups and downs of, especially in the first 2 years, I had like that first episode where I was waking up and 2 weeks of intense feeling how that is in a world where you woke. But it was intense, and I also understood that after 2 weeks I was really like begging, this has to stop because it's too much for my system. And I had a like maybe 1.5 years after that initial activation, I had another experience where everything went into synchronicity. That was the moment where, at the first experience for me is when the universe or whatever showed me how that is the truth.
Mm.
So that was the first thing I asked for. And the second one was, and this is unconditional love. And I was riding along 2 weeks of getting the teachings of what is unconditional love. And then after these 2 weeks, I was again flipped out. Like from one moment to the other, the ride stopped. And then the integration phase begins where I felt like it was given to me, and now I have to know how to integrate and bring that to normal life. And so that's where I'm at. I try to integrate these teachings, and it's it's a lot. It's difficult to explain what you are um, what you are learning, because for me the learning most of the time is not something I can tell with words. And that's also why I sometimes feel a bit hesitant to tell my story, because as soon as I tell the story, it depletes a bit of the sensation or the teaching of itself, because it has to be felt. It's just for me the teachings, they can only be felt. They cannot be told.
Mm.
And that's why for everyone it's the inner ride, and for everyone it's something different. Yeah.
Fascinating, Catherine. Thank you so much for sharing so many really big themes there. You know, you made the distinction between a spiritual awakening and a Kundalini awakening, and many people do. I completely understand that as well. Um, the way that I see it, and it's just my take, I see it all as one process. And I,
Mm-hmm.
I heard at some point somebody describe, the moment that you begin spiritual seeking, Kundalini is now awake. I heard someone say it was actually at that point, awake,
Mm.
asleep. I don't know if we can really, put too many very strict labels or requirements on those terms. But it seems like when you were really seeking what is the truth, what is unconditional love, I find that whenever anybody really begins to ask those questions, eventually they get the answers, and it's in the body that it's found and felt, and that it seems to awaken this process, this Kundalini. Another
Yeah.
big common theme is many people have a Kundalini awakening and don't know that that's what they're experiencing. It's almost like the flow, synchronicity, God hides this information from us until it's really the right time. So you can explore a bunch of different spiritual material and texts and yet never come across this word. It's so interesting. I've heard very similar stories from many people. Yeah, and the other theme that is very common and it speaks to the work that you're doing now is you were just so appreciative that your yoga teacher took you seriously.
Yeah.
That's such a big piece. I remember I had a mentor who it was a shot in the dark. I just described this experience. It was 2 weeks after I had this similar energetic rising. I didn't know that this was Kundalini until one day, after about 2 weeks, somebody had mentioned that term, and then I started saying, I think that's what it is. And then I spoke to this mentor. She was an energy healer. I said, have you experienced anything like this? And she said, oh yeah, this happened to me about 15 years ago. And I just remember feeling so relieved. Here was somebody who was taking me seriously because I thought I wasn't taking myself seriously. I thought I had completely gone off the rails. So that was a big moment for me as well. So I'm happy that, you experienced something similar and now this is what you're doing for others as well, right? Sharing,
Yeah.
supporting.
That's actually the main. It's funny, because it was also in the background that that is the thing that would fulfill me the most, to help other people and to yeah to bring a lot of stories together so that people can be heard, because it was the only thing that helped me. I was looking for people who tell their story so that that resonate, and it's not easy to distinguish. Well, of course you feel when somebody is really you telling from experience, but it's not easy to find them. Now it gets easier, but um yeah. And so for me, the main thing was becoming that I really want to also educate people. Like, I heard a lot of stories from people who went to a psychologist, and then they get medicated and diagnosed with psychosis or schizophrenia. And I think, yeah, that's also another topic. A lot of potential is in the psych wards,
Yeah.
and they get medicated down. And it's so important that people get educated about that. And so it's funny because I just finished the education in yoga therapy, and was wanted to also really start with the sound healing, do these two things. And then my knee got hurt, so I need an operation in 2 weeks, which will bring me flat for 6 months.
Wow.
Really, for me, it was the universe who was like, because I really tried to have Kundalini by sides and have a normal life, and help a bit with yoga therapy and sound healing, and that's it. But I want to have a normal life, please. And she was like, nope,
Yeah.
sit down and go back to writing.
Wow.
So that's actually the thing I want to do now, and I'm researching a lot of stuff. And now it feels like it would be great to have a good, also in the German speaking region again, because a lot of people, they are really really at lost here because they don't speak English, and then they don't find the help they need. So a good book would also help, where I talk more down to earth about it. So it's not that spiritual. It's, of course, it's spiritual at the end, but it's a process. For me, it's like puberty, where when the body is ready, it will go into that process. And it's not that we, it's really, it just opens up your nervous system and a lot of the unconscious stuff is coming up. So also, where are we coming from? Like it goes really back to that your atoms are going to start to talk to you, and they you can only understand them in archetypes maybe, or so that's why all this stuff is coming up, and we make maybe too much out of it, and it might be simpler as we think, and also approachable for people like a psychiatrist or uh, yeah, a medical doctor, so that they understand more. Ah, that's why she's twitching.
Ah,
Let's not talk about krios. Let's talk about a hyperactive nervous system. And of course, the muscles are going to twitch because, no. So, finding a modern language for a very, very old experience so
yeah.
that people can relate again to it without being shunned, or yeah, that people have fear that they are losing their mind. It's something very natural.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, we have very similar, if not the same, missions here. And that's why I like to have guests on like yourself that are grounded, articulate, that are able to speak in a reflective way about their experience. It's very encouraging and inspiring for people that may listen and say, "Oh, look at Kathrin. She's doing great work. She's stable, and I'll get there too one day. I'll just have to allow this process to unfold." And you use that word integration. I've got to integrate this awakening into my life. Um, you mentioned having a period, I think you said it was 2 weeks of
Yeah.
great synchronicity. It seemed like you were really in alignment with, I'll use the word God. You were really in the flow. And
Hmm.
then I think you expressed something along the lines of, you were thrown out of that state.
Yeah.
You then said, then my work was to integrate.
Hmm.
I've heard other people describe a very similar experience to you, except they say, that began my dark night of the soul.
Mm.
I was in touch, I was in alignment, and then I lost it. Did you have a period in your journey where you would say was akin to a dark night of the soul?
Crazy dark night of souls.
Mm.
Yeah, but not necessarily right after.
Ah,
For me, especially the last dark night of the soul that I had is that was in December last year, and it was horrible because the energy, I couldn't walk properly anymore. My nervous system really gave up. So the life energy really kind of um, went out of my body. And so this night of dark night of the soul was a harsh lesson she gave me, or my nervous system gave me, the energy gave me, God gave me, because I was at the point where I really was, I wanted to have a normal life. I rejected the call, like in the hero's journey. I was at that point where I was like, nope, I just want to give a bit yoga and just have a normal life. I mean, I have like four teenagers. I'm a single mom. I do that all on my own. I cannot handle a lot of internal turmoil on top of that. So I try to have a normal life. And I was also drinking too much alcohol because it kind of numbed
yeah.
whatever. I just felt like I can sleep better or whatever. But I was struggling with addictive tendencies, and that was the moment where she brought me in a very crazy dark night of the soul. And but that is also like the other synchronicity experiences where everything is very light and beautiful. was a dark night of the soul experience where she showed me again it's really it is possible to wherever you are with your inner state, this is what you're going to experience. So that was a ride of, again, 2 weeks, which was incredibly dark and everything went wrong. I was like, I was really crawling to the airport to go to Costa Rica because I knew it's going to help my health, my mental health. I was nearly dying on this plane. I was just crying, and the nervous system gave up on me. And then I arrived in Costa Rica, and then they told me that my connection flight is canceled. And I was like, oh my God, I thought in a half an hour I'm going to be there where I should be. Now it takes another 6 hours with a taxi, with the ferry, with another taxi. But I have to do that because I need to go there. And as soon as I was there, it was just raining, and that in December, where normally it's just beautiful weather. I got my quad. I wanted to ride around, go to yoga class, and just relax. But the quad broke down the first day, flat tire, everything. So you see where I'm going with that. It was again, it was a lesson of you want to go there, we go there. I bring you there. You choose to be in that miserable state. There we go. uh, so I can relate with people who have brutal dark nights of the souls, and it's a horrible experience, really. It's but comes with great teachings again as well, and makes you humble.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it makes you humble and it seems to exhaust the parts of us that want to have life go our way, right? Like
yeah,
many of us say, okay, I had a Kundalini awakening. I'll I'll do a little bit of spiritual this or that, but I want to have a quote unquote normal life. I think she says that's something you've now evolved beyond. And at least in my approach, I tell people like this is your life now. Dedicate
yeah,
everything to it, and everything will be taken care of. Everything can fall under the umbrella of your spiritual path, your family, your career, your work, your health, whatever it is. But it's not something we do like on the weekends sometimes. This is your life. Um,
yeah, and yeah, I was still bypassing a lot, you know. I was really trying to have that quote unquote normal life, and but also like like doing a lot of inner work, but where the real shadow is, I didn't want to go there all the time, and so yeah, I think she really brought me literally to my knees,
yeah,
so that I will have a break and um, dedicate more effort into it and take it seriously. And also, what my other problem was, I mean, I'm a single mom since 12 years, and I do that, and I'm juggling and having all these teenagers with a lot of own baggage because two of them are foster children. So, and I did that all on my own. So I'm very much in the masculine, and I cannot let go. To surrender is very difficult for me. And she asks for that, and it's so difficult for me. So, what I also, a long time, I thought I want to do this process on my own, and I have to. I felt a bit like neglected. Nobody can help me. And that also, I understood now that I need community who see me and where I am vulnerable, and maybe yeah, and where they where I can also break down, and still being not shamed for being vulnerable, and this is very difficult for me. So But I found now, I don't know, I think I found him also through an interview you did with him, Chris Holiday.
Ah, Craig Holiday.
No,
Yeah.
Craig Holiday. Yeah. So I found him and I was in a group meeting a week ago with him, and I was like, oh my God, 8 years. Why didn't you connect earlier to a teacher like him? Because it was crazy. I was in his presence and the energy started to move on its own. He was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Uh, so I understood, okay, this is also the humbling process of you need help and you have to ask for help. And it's funny because a lot of people don't associate this with a lot of problems and strength when you do that. But for me, it's difficult. And so that's the way she wants me to go. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, community is such a big piece. At least I imagine for many of us here in the West, we're not meant to go through this like as an ascetic in some cave by ourselves. We're meant to be in community and to compare notes and to share stories and also the energetic component as well, which we
Mhm.
experience on a Zoom call as well. There's like, your energy system, the Kundalini is responding to being on a Zoom call. How fascinating, right? Yeah, Craig is
Yeah.
incredible. He
Yeah.
shared many great things, but one of the things that I really liked that he shared was, after this process or during this process, he says you become a slave to God, right? And you don't
Yeah.
get to have your normal life. You're a slave to God. Yeah.
Yeah, what I also like about him, he's so authentic. So he's because a lot of people they come a little bit in this guru mode and they try to always be in this calm state, but he makes a lot of jokes and he's like, I was a wreck sometimes. Oh, you cannot imagine. And then you feel so seen and so yeah, because we're just absolutely normal human beings, just experience, and that also, is like that. That also is fascinating for me. That actually Kundalini, it just shows you everything more amplified, but the process is with or without is exactly the same. I mean, you don't need a Kundalini to understand that you should surrender and that there, for everyone, even if she's not plaguing you for not doing that as much as she does with us when she's very active, but everyone is asked because the teachings come the same.
Mm.
Actually, you also get sick or you always have the same problems in relationships when you don't look at your shadows and it just doesn't have to be that harsh. So I feel like I'm in a state where I get teachings very on point, and it's good when I also share them because everybody can yeah, can profit from it's everybody's journey.
Yeah. Well said. Yeah, it's everybody's journey. Yeah, you've been speaking a lot about the Kundalini, and you've been using the word she. Can you talk to us a
Mhm.
little bit about this relationship that you have with this feminine presence? Like, give us something here. I always think it's very interesting the way people relate with this force, this process. I like to say she, the Divine Mother. Where do you get that from?
I think it's conditioning.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's Shakti, it's the Shakti energy. And so I relate to her with she, but no, it's not true. I also feel that it's a feminine
Mm.
energy, but quite a force.
Yeah.
She's demanding,
Mm. Yeah.
and she also wants me to be not to also encourage women to be more in their power. but that's also a shadow side of me. So you know that the point that it's very important, but also frightening for me to stand up and tell my story is that I feel a lot of women, they don't like when I speak.
Mm.
They feel intimidated somehow, or they think, yeah, she's so this is a big wound that I already had from my mom, and I take that in. I feel that it's coming up in my life. So the feminine energy that is scared to come in her power,
Ah, yeah.
but she has to now because it's important for all humanity. We need her to be strong, and it's nothing egoic. It's but it can feel that way. So a lot of times I come into I shouldn't talk, I should just keep quiet. And I had to find out, is it because I feel like it's my ego that wants to speak, or is it my soul?
Mm.
And it is my soul, but it's also something else. It's a power that wants to break through, and she's feminine,
Yeah.
and she wants to be heard, and she's fierce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fierce. Yeah. So so much variety in the way that this feminine manifestation of consciousness shows up. Fierce, demanding, nurturing, encouraging, loving. So all of the different flavors is there. That's been my experience, at least. Yeah, and this is a time on the planet where there is the reemergence of the divine feminine in a very, very big way. And that's what I think we're seeing here. I mean, that's what
Mhm.
I've experienced in my own system, my own life. It's necessary at this time. Absolutely, absolutely necessary. You describe having a little bit of fear, reluctance to express. Have you heard of this idea of the witch wound?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do
Yeah.
you identify?
Yeah, you introduced me to it. Thank you.
Hmm,
So it was also healing for me to read that. And I can relate. Yeah, it's really it's about life and death, to just speak your truth. And that has to do with a very, very old wound, um, that is that is playing there. And yeah, it's also again, I think it's a very feminine energy and wound there. So yeah.
yeah, and doing this type of work, coming on a podcast to share and express are all different ways that we soothe this wound and reassure ourselves that we're safe. We're safe.
Mm.
Um, it seems every now and then you may get some extremely critical person online or it's judgmental or dismissive or whatever. But for the most part, the people
Yeah.
that find these conversations are people like us and they appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's inspiring, right?
It's very beautiful. I think so as well. They are really, yeah, they are appreciative. So it's nice.
Yeah. Can you talk to us a little bit about your work now as a yoga therapist with Kundalini experience? How has that influenced the way that you work?
Mm, actually, a lot, because when I go in such an education, like a training, I I know I need to hear the basics, but I also know that my brain, and that comes just from experience now, my brain cannot hold on to teachings from the outside. I will forget it. And a long time I was like, I should study more, I should study more. But every time I study a lot, the fire of uh, yeah, like I want to do this is going to be extinct. So I think it's very important to have basic knowledge, but then I need to trust my intuition, and then I work best. So yeah, in yoga therapy, it's for me. I mean, you can also go into physiotherapy or something. What the difference for me in yoga therapy is that you feel that you understand that when somebody's coming and has back pain, that you listen and that you see the red thread. So how is her life and what does she has to handle all the time? What's the burden on the shoulders that they are always
Mm.
tight, and that you actually I try to focus more on emotional release that the person can experience. So giving her um, asanas that will make her cry, maybe.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it happens, it happens. And also, again, it's actually just a moment where a person, every person has that wound of not being seen and heard.
Mm.
And so people, when they come to me, that's my only goal, to give them the feeling that I see you, whatever the topic is, and then work from there.
Wow, that's brilliant. Yeah. Yeah. So of course you're sharing that you operate from a, you have a foundation and you're trained and there's a structured way, but within that, it seems like there's lots of room for an intuitive, spontaneous expression of the feminine healer to come
Mhm.
through. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah. It seems like this is a very common thing where people go through this process or begin to come out of their own dark nights of the soul or reach a certain point of integration where they feel called to serve in a big way.
Mm.
And that's when we talk about this idea of having a normal life. You can also see it as like there's no such thing as a normal life. Now you're living a life of service,
Mhm.
serving God, and God will help you with that in the way that God is, healing through you and serving through you, right? And seeing other people through you. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the big integration step, to even more just stepping even more aside and let just an intelligence work through you, so that you are not doing it anymore. Because that's really, it's funny because uh, that's also when somebody has such an awakening, most of the people, they fall into everything that was fun before or made them feel excited falls away, like to have a career or to achieve this or that. It suddenly falls away, and then people are like, so what now? And it was also difficult for me, and to find what excites you has to come from the heart then. And the long process of really connecting to the heart and understand what it means, that takes time. And in that time you might be quite lost, and you will not find a spark of, that's what I want to do. So that's why I was talking about, I try to have a normal life, but I understood I'm still the doer. I'm like, oh, okay, that will fulfill me. I will do yoga therapy. And that's why she brought me to my knees. She was like, that's nice, but this is not the way you should actually help. It's really, and I think my way of where I feel the spark, and but where I also feel incredibly scared, but that's also an indicator of that's exactly where you should go, because there's growth.
Yeah.
It is education about this topic, and talk about my story, talk, let other people have their voice and tell their story.
Yeah. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah. I've heard it described that Kundalini Shakti, she will dismantle you, put you back together, and then put you to work. That's-
Mm, yes.
And it's scary, right? It's scary because she puts you to work, but you don't get the full picture. You don't know where this is going. You just have
Yeah,
to
and
trust.
not the way you might think.
Yeah. Yeah.
You, she will. Well, again, she does that with every person, if she's totally active or not. I mean, Kundalini is active in every person, let's be honest, and she does that with everyone, but it's not so blatant. But
Mm.
again, the teachings are really, really the same. So many people, they are on a path and they don't feel fulfilled, but you just be an accountant and that's how it is. And they feel that they are not fulfilled, but somehow they can trick it better. When she's very active, she's going to hit you in the knee,
Ah,
you
yeah.
know? But
Yeah. Yeah.
the thing is
When
the
she's
same.
very active, very low tolerance for you
Yeah, to
not.
mess with her.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's why I think a lot of people get very uncomfortable when they're not living in alignment with this process. It's very uncomfortable, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's better to be afraid and moving into the unknown, but in some sort of alignment, than to be out of alignment and having some sort of idea of what your normal life is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Both have their ups and downs, but I think the way that we're living is at least for us, a bit more suitable for where we're at. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about how people can explore your work and connect with you.
Yeah, so actually the Kundalini movement side, also Sana Sattva, where the yoga therapy and sound healing is. They're both in German. So, but of course, people also can go there and come into contact with me, especially when it comes to um, having support in the Kundalini process. I'm totally open to people, German region, English speaking region, wherever.
Great.
So yeah, best to connect through these websites. And
Okay.
yeah.
And
And
you're
also I'm very interested when somebody wants to share their story on the YouTube channel. So awakening stories. Yeah.
great. So the links to all your work will be in the description there. Your yoga therapy and the sound healing, that's some stuff that you do in person as well in
Yeah.
Switzerland.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Great. Great. Thank you so much, Catherine, for coming on and sharing your story. Um, I know, there must be so many interesting anecdotes and themes that we overlooked today, but I'm sure you've given us so much value and people out there will feel heard in your story. So thank you so much and for the work you're doing as well. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. And to our listeners, thank you for being here with us. Until next time, much love and peace.